It has to start with trust and transparency with people. Like, if you do that, then you'll attract the right people. You want to make sure that you're being very open with the people that you hire, that this is what we do and this is how we work, so that people walk in and they're not like tricked into joining and then get a different perspective of what it is. If you want the best out of someone, you want to make sure that you're creating an environment that suits them. So set up that as your foundation, and you will draw the right people in and retain them.
Amit, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, it's such a pleasure. Like, this is pretty awesome to be here at a conference and be able to do a podcast. It's really neat.
The buzz and the energy is incredible. Well, I'd love to just dive in because you are your organization is so interesting in what you do. You help plug software engineers into companies as full-time employees and help take up that extra bandwidth and deliver what they're looking for. I can imagine that A, it's very difficult to source your talent, but then B, keep it in seat because you're always plugging into other organizations. So what is talent retention at your organization? What does that look like?
Well, it's really interesting if I take it a step back, like the whole thing of the challenge of sourcing the right people. That's something that we haven't really had as a challenge because we have a culture that people want to be a part of. You know, that feeling of being an ex-teamer is a position of pride. And it's really well known in the software engineering space that software engineers vie to be an ex-teamer. So we actually get hundreds of thousands of people applying to get in. And it usually takes them a few years, but once they do, it's such a celebration. So every month I actually celebrate all the new ex-teamers that join and the anniversaries of people that have been with us for 5, 10, 12, 15 years, which is really exciting in the IT sector. But with regards to retention specifically, we have actually a 97% retention of our engineers. And that is a very strong element for X-Team. We want to make sure that, it's so hard to get in. Once someone gets into X-Team, we want to make sure that we retain them, we keep them within us. So there's several different spokes of work that we do in order to do that.
I am so curious because, we hear about a lot of organizations where it is hard to get through the application process. There are many leading organizations, but having a retention rate of 97%, you said, is extraordinarily remarkable. And so what is it about your culture that leads to folks wanting to come in and join the organization and then stay at the organization?
Well, it started with the principle that the founder had from the very beginning. So the company's been around for about 18 years, and he's based in Australia, but his position was that the best developers are not necessarily in your neighborhood, they're anywhere in the world. So he said, I'm going to open the doors and let the best talent apply. So whilst he's in Australia, his employee number 2 was in Poland, employee number 3 was in Canada, just kept going on from there. And the position was to not worry about, not distinguish between, borders like culture, religion, race, anything like that. It's just about, are you an awesome engineer and are you going to suit to the culture of what we're putting forward to our clients?
That is incredible. So when you bring in so much diversity into an organization, it unlocks an incredible amount of innovation, an incredible amount of different perspectives. But you are remote and you are bringing in so much diversity. How do you build a common fabric, a common culture? What does that look like at X-Team?
It's actually quite beautiful. Having the ability to work with people from so many different countries, it really opens you up to the world. So I think we're up to about over 60 different countries that we're celebrating that we've got ex-teamers from. But I know for a lot of organizations, remote would be quite difficult, and especially during the COVID times, that's when people first started doing remote. We've been remote from the beginning. So we had to figure out a way of how to get people to feel interconnected, to feel that they're part of something, even though a lot of times they won't meet each other in person for perhaps years and whilst they've been with the company. So being remote from outset, you had to find other ways to create culture. And what we did was we put this focus on getting people to engage with each other and have that as a gamified process within the organization. The reason was we wanted to just make people feel like they're part of something. And I've interviewed a lot of the ex-team engineers, and something they've said is that they've had positions where they've been in an office and would go in the morning, put on their headphones, start coding, and wouldn't talk to anyone and then leave at the end of the day and felt so extremely lonely. Like there's something about, like, loneliness is an epidemic, within the world, but it's so much worse to be lonely in a crowd, right? So what we wanted to do is to make sure that we're watching out for people. We're making sure that they've got a space to connect with other people who are of like mind to them from all around the world.
So how did you create that? Because that requires creating trust, creating vulnerability, creating the space for someone to be able to bring their full self to the workplace. What are some of the traditions, or what are some of the mechanisms, or what are some of the trainings or expectations that you have within your organization that create that opportunity for connection and vulnerability?
I love that you said the word trust. Trust is key in remote. There's some organizations that put such a strong focus, the person has to be in the office. I want to see that they're working. I mean, that's terrible. What, you need to see them tapping on their keyboard to know that they're working?
You need to know that they're signing in at 8 a.m. and they're walking out the door
at 5 p.m.
Punch
cards? We're so far beyond that. So for us, it was from the beginning, you work your hours, and it's about, we don't say work from home, we say work from anywhere. We encourage people to use the time to travel, to live their lives. But we want them also to infuse their lives, so that it's not like a work-life balance, it's a life balance. It all meshes in how we put ourselves into our work. To be very specific on some of the mechanisms that we do, what we've started to do is from the very beginning, we created a gamification network where we wanted people to be able to share elements of their lives. So we have sort of club fitness, for example, where people share about ones who like to run for several miles, like sharing their results and all that, and others give them kudos. And they're in different parts of the world, but they're sharing a very similar interest. We have that with music, we have that with reading, with movies and all that. And all those elements come together and people are interconnecting, communicating about those parts of their lives that make them feel like they're not alone, like there's other people out there that are similar to them. And then we add a gamification layer onto it, which is then when it really boosts up. So we have this thing where we provide them quests that they can do. And as you do a quest, you get coins, like these digital coins that you get within the company. And then with that, you can get X-Team merch. And we have a designer who actually does X-Team specific merch that we all vie for, these t-shirts and beanies and backpacks and all that. And people wear them with pride. Our clients always say, when an X-Team are on, they're always decked out in the coolest gear. But that's gear that they can't purchase. They can only get that by participating, by activating in the network.
That is a really, really cool example of gamification, where you don't just have the channels for interaction in place, you have a system to drive engagement and drive interaction on it, and then you have the incentive at the end of a really cool piece of company swag or company merchandise that you can't get in any other way. I know that, I don't know what it is, but you could probably convince me to participate a lot more in some of the BetterWorks activities if I knew that I was going to get a really cool, probably not a laptop case anymore, but maybe a cool travel backpack or a cool toiletry kit. Or if you could get me a BetterWorks leash for my dog, I would be so much more active in our Secret Life of Pets channel.
We have a lot of people who love their pets, and we came up with a really cool pet scarf that was extremely popular, and these things disappear like that, so people really get in quickly.
It's so interesting how it doesn't often cost a lot of money to create culture or to create things that make someone feel like they are part of a broader culture. So if you do have, employees that are dispersed all over the world, that's exactly what X-Team does. I can't imagine what it's like to be a fully remote company with, you might not even have a colleague in your country. Maybe you do. Maybe you don't have a colleague within an hour's train ride or car ride. But if you all have the same swag, or you are all in talking about the same quests that you're working on, it does create that fabric. And while it takes time and intentionality, it might not necessarily break the bank to be able to do. It's more just deciding that as an organization, investing in culture and building culture is going to be one of the priorities that we want our team members to put time towards.
It has to be authentic, though. You can't manufacture this, because whilst we have an amazing VP of experiences, and that's his role, he's got a whole large department on that. the community makes it, because it's everyone coming together to support it. That's where it really functions and flourishes, when people are contributing to it voluntarily and wanting to be involved.
I'm so curious about this role of VP of Experience. What falls underneath that? So what is this person doing? How are they collaborating with other teams in HR, with teams outside of HR? What is this person's remit, and how? Let's start with that, and then I'd love to know, how are you measuring impact and success of that person?
So he has two departments within there. One is online and one is in person, because we do in-person engagements as well. So online, he's got a team that create the games for people to participate in, that connect to the quests, that connect to the merch team as well, that are creating all this, and to make sure that each of it has themes that come into the different phases. So, for example, we just entered our Legends theme, where people are participating and competing in sort of this America's Got Talent type singing competitions, and there's game competitions, and there's like who can type fastest, all these sorts of different elements. So that's in the online. Then the in-person is we actually provide in-person events called Outposts, where 6 times a year, the engineers or all of us can come in and work together. So being a position of not just work from home, but work from anywhere, you'll be able to go, okay, well, there are 6 cities that you can go in, and you can bring your partner, your kids, and just work from a different location for a week, whether it be, this year we had Brazil, we had Tokyo, Mexico, we had Queenstown, New Zealand, all over the world, and people are coming together and they're working side by side with each other. So they'll be working in the time zone of the client, and then they'll collaborate and go to dinner and go to, have a breakfast together, depending on how that all sits with the time zone. So the awesome part with all that is that everyone wins from this, because the client is getting a really engaged individual. So if a client, even if they have just one ex-teamer that starts with them, they're actually getting an ex-teamer who's supported by an army behind them. Because let's say they're a Java engineer and they get stuck on something, there are so many other engineers that they can connect with and get support from. And these are their friends that they collaborate through. So that community actually supports them, and it supports the client in that engagement as well.
That is really interesting. And I can imagine that the fabric of connection between departments, because it's not just the engineers participating in this, it's your finance team, your HR
absolutely.
team, your sales team, your customer success team. And so the relationships that grow between each of these teams, and the collaboration prevents some of the silos that we often see that can hold back organizations.
We want everyone to understand that in order to make X team work, in order to be able to have like hundreds of engineers around the world, you need to understand that every part of the business has to function to make that work. Everyone is relevant to do that. You spoke before about the HR element. One thing we have at X Team in support of HR is a department called the Wizards. And I don't think many organizations have wizards. What the wizards do are, their role is to engage with all the people within the company and check in on them proactively, to be an advocate for them, to support them in what they're trying to do to live their lives. So, check in, of course, how things going with work, how are all those things going, but it might be that someone's got a parent who's, ill at the time, or that there's relationship issues, or a pet might have passed and all that. And to be able to have someone to listen to and care about you, send care packages to them in that time. Like if someone gets sick, they get a care package from a wizard within the day. It is, and you should see them when they come together at the Outpost, everyone goes, I have to find my wizard. I want to give my wizard a hug. Because they have these people that genuinely care about them and support them.
Well, and that goes back to bringing your whole self to work and feeling like you can. You actually have a team that's there to support the whole person. If they are moving house, if they are sick and under the weather, if they are going through a life change of some sort, knowing that you can share that with your organization, you don't have to check that at the door, that adds richness to your culture. And I guess it probably, no doubt, adds to the high retention that you have, because you don't feel, even though you are a fully remote organization, your employees feel like they actually can lean in and they can trust the organization to help and to support them, and that the organization is actually where they do draw support networks from, and instead of just keeping it as a professional relationship and then dropping it at the door or keeping everyone at arm's distance.
Well, it's part of our complete identity, right? Like what we do with our work is such an important element. Being able to know that you've got that support. I've had so many great stories of people who were able to, like, had a partner who was going through a serious illness, and they wanted to be there available to them because of the remote nature. They were able to do that, but they also were able to keep funding. They were able to keep getting work and know that the company's got its back. That we care so much about them. We want to keep them with us, that we'll support them through that journey.
There are a lot of companies who hope to build this level of employee engagement and employee trust with the organization. One of the main drivers for that is the idea that when you have an engaged and loyal employee base that's going to stay with you over years, you keep your institutional knowledge, but you also see increased productivity coming out of your employees because they are so invested in their work and they're so engaged and excited about what they do. Do you see that at X-Team?
Oh, absolutely. I reflect on where there was this thing when I first came into the workforce, and there was a lot of companies that touted, "Oh, we work hard, but we play hard as well." And what that actually meant is that they squeeze every last juice out of their employees, and then they buy them some pizzas and drinks when they need to. That is not looking after your people. That is utilizing as much as you can out of them and buying a bit of them of their retention back. And it doesn't work, because after a while, people realize that they are treated as a number and they'll be discarded when they're not needed. What we want to do is, because we have such a strong focus on ex-teamers retaining, we want to make sure that when they finish an engagement with one client, we're finding their next role with another ex-team client, so that they stay with us all the way through that journey. One really neat thing that we do is we have a unleashed budget for everyone. So what it is it's because we're remote, right? Like, we don't have the offices that have the pool tables and the gym equipment and all that. So what we do is we have this unleashed budget. It's $2,500 per year that they can use for very specific things, for things that empower everything else in their lives. So this is for their gym membership, for getting babysitting so that they can go out, for movie tickets, for taking family for dinner, all these things that will enrich their lives beyond it. And this year we actually expanded, and we said, okay, the $2,500 unleash, it stays. If you want to use it on all the different ways, you can. Or there's this other element that you can go $3,000, but you can only use that for travel to visit the X-Team events. Because these outposts, where we cover the accommodation, like they use for their flying, we find that there's so much benefit of people getting a chance to meet each other, whether they'd be like the engineers or other departments. When they meet each other and they connect in person, it changes how we function after that. So a lot of people are really excited about that and have booked a lot of trips for next year. So I think Bali's the big one in South Korea. People are really excited about that. So the Unleashed budget's a big part. One of our engineers, I spoke to her and she said that, she's fairly young, and she said that, I met her in the Kyoto in the Outpost this year. And she said that if it wasn't for the Unleashed budget, she wouldn't be here at Kyoto. She'd be taking that money and put it towards her savings, towards the house and all that. But this, she has to use it. Otherwise, it clears out every year, it refreshes, you get another 2.5, you have to use it. So it encourages people to actually use it for things that enrich their lives, rather than just the bills and the mortgage and whatever.
And again, that's about unlocking the full person and helping them. Yes, sometimes it is about covering a car payment or paying for a babysitter to go out with your partner. But maybe it is about, creating that new experience that enriches your life, that you look forward to, that you experience in the moment, and then that you look back on and you see the impact that it's had over your life, with the new relationships and interactions you've had with your colleagues. And so that is, once again, thinking about how can we as an organization that employs people actually add value to your entire life and make a really meaningful moment every day where you're working, because you do spend so much time at work. And so if you can have that if you can put the employee first, not just as an employee, but as a person first in your organization, and as you think about your policies and your benefits and your programming, that can't help but build a strong culture.
The really cool thing is we have, as part of the quest that I was mentioning before, there's a quest that says, post something amazing you've done with your Unleashed budget this year. And people like post all their stories in there. And it's really interesting to see how this has enriched their lives, for a good way. But the quest can be something so minor, something simple, like there was one about show your favorite sandwich, right? And I posted like a photo of like the sandwich that I make and how I make it. And then I went to an Outpost and I met with this person from Poland. And he said, "Oh, Amit, I made that sandwich that like you made," and we connected, and just you bond over the silliest things. But we're all from different cities, different locations, different backgrounds, and even different roles. But we're all humans, and we all have things that we want to bond over. So it really is quite beautiful, the interconnections that X-Team provides to people's lives.
That is really amazing and incredible.
It's something that we actually celebrate is that as we sign up a new client and client comes and they say, "Oh, we want 15, 20 engineers for something." We say, like, "Isn't this exciting? We're going to get 20 more people that are going to have an amazing experience by being an X-teamer." Like, because we have this internal quote, we don't market it, but like changing lives at scale, because we really feel like we're making a positive impact for people who join X-team.
Do you find that some of your employee base ends up missing their teams as they switch from different projects and going into different places? Or do you find that because you've built this culture of constantly introducing and engaging with the broader community that is canceled out, or that there's some sort of, how does that work?
Well, the lovely thing is because, even if you're a single X-teamer at one organization, you're still just as connected to the rest of the community. So you have people that you're working with currently, but you're engaging with all. You might be at Fox for the 2 years, and then you're moved to Wall Street Journal, but you've still got your Fox guys, and you get stuck on some problem. You chat with them and get support from each other, plus all the the games and the culture and things that we offer to them at the same time.
And what role do managers play in creating this culture and supporting your hybrid and your remote work environment? Like, what is the focus that you place on manager training or manager enablement or manager goals and expectations to ensure that you're building this culture of trust and you're building a place where when an employee gets sick, their wizard gets looped in really quickly and you have these broader conversations that happen?
Internally, everyone gets involved. Everyone's part of the community. So whether you're a person in finance, in HR, in the experience as a developer, whichever, you're an X-teamer. Whether you're a manager or whether you're an engineer, you're an X-teamer. Like, everyone is wearing the same X-team t-shirts. Everyone is getting just as involved into the areas. And when we come together, when we have an event, and you'll see like all these people that don't know each other, well, they're all wearing the X-team t-shirts that they've won over the last few years. And you just show up to someone, you just say, "Hey, I'm an X-teamer as well. What do you do? I'm in finance. I'm in this," and they connect with each other that way, which is just beautiful.
That's amazing. Reflecting over this conversation, I'm thinking about how wonderful it is that you work at an organization that has spent almost 2 decades intentionally crafting culture that brings the entire employee into the company, that helps make everyone feel seen and cared for and appreciated, that leads to these, really long lines of individuals who want to come and be part of your company culture and then want to stay for years and years. But let's say that you were to move to a new organization or start building something from the ground up. What are some things that you would focus on early to start crafting those elements of culture and to start beginning that framework?
Yeah, well, I think, again, it has to start with trust and transparency with people. Like, if you do that, then you'll attract the right people. You want to make sure that you're being very open with the people that you hire, that this is what we do and this is how we work, so that people walk in and they're not like tricked into joining and then get a different perspective of what it is. So I think that if you want the best out of someone, you want to make sure that you're creating an environment that suits them. So set up that as your foundation, and you will draw the right people in and retain them.
I love it. That is great. Amit, thank you so much for speaking with us today. This has been a wonderful conversation. I've been just so jazzed by hearing about what you're doing at X Team and the way that you're crafting culture and the way that it's so intentional and that it feeds into every part of someone's work experience on a daily basis. That's so empowering and it's so inspiring.
Thank you. This has been a real pleasure. Thank you for giving us a chance to speak about X Team.